Thought I wanted to save us, but I was stuck in the past. Messed me up, I wanted to hurt. Just give me something that lasts. I think you know what I'm made of, yeah. So when our mind is made, paint a picture in vivid color. Can't tell the light from the grays. You slow things down and clear my mind. It's like leaving a toxic friend behind. You say yes, and you don't make waves. I don't need to say that you know that I'll try, and I don't wanna hide or waste another life. Say no, and I will let go. I don't need to say that you know that I'll try, and I don't wanna hide or waste another life.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the hello. Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel. I'm Ron Swanson. We're here to talk today a little bit about some issues in the UK. But before we do that, how are we all doing? It's Monday. How was your weekend? Hope everyone is doing really, really well. There is a new headline show that I'll be doing later on today for about half an hour. So keep our eyes peeled for that. Hope you've all had a good weekend. I'm still way more pink than I should be on screen, but less than I was, which is good. Now, I mean, you can sort of tell by the thumbnail, right, where this one's going. Okay, and there's been a lot of stuff in the news around the world about this industrial transportation of humans, shall we say. A public holiday in Australia. Well, listen, big shout out to the Australians. I don't know how you do it. Like, I do not know how you do it out there in that heat. There's a reason why all the main population centers are around the outside of Australia. Breezes. Okay, breezes. That is why. Anyway, so you can tell by the thumbnail where this is going, right? And it's gotten to a very confusing point for me because there seems to be this never-ending importation going on. And we're going to watch a couple of clips later on in this where we sort of talk about mass population altering, right? With small towns in the UK who are sort of seeing the impact of a massive culture shock to where they are. And of course, not every single person who is seeking asylum, who is coming to the UK for whatever reason, is a bad person. Okay, good people get caught up in bad things. But there is certainly, right? There is certainly a small demographic of individual who doesn't seem to understand one or two things. They're coming here for dangerous reasons, extreme reasons, or they're coming here because they're escaping. And some of these individuals have a very colorful history when it comes to criminality. And entering a country illegally is probably their only option. And I just want to make it clear, this is all this is about. It's about paperwork. It's about the safety of the people of a nation, right? Why does that come second? Right? Like, why is it that when we fill an entire hotel full of individuals from traumatic trips, shall you say, some have taken 6-7 months, we put them all into these hotels, and it gives me a similar feeling to almost like the concept of criminality spreading within a prison, right? So if you've got a small time crook who's mixed in with big time crooks, there's a lot to be learned. And obviously, these hotels tend to be gender specific. So you have a lot of hotels with a lot of young men who are not so much trapped, but in these hotels and locked in these echo chambers. So when you have individuals who are genuinely trying to escape absolute horrors, they've seen some things, they've maybe had to do some things. They arrive here and the seeds are already planted for this extremist mindset to germinate. Now, let's have a look at a couple of things. Because for me, I want to ask the question, how many of these individuals are coming over here with the intention of committing criminality, who have a past of criminality? And we're going to have a look at two different forms of criminality here. Organized crime, rocking heads, representing on Twitter, Twitch, sorry, my G. Organized crime, okay, and then predatory crime. All right. So organized crime is going to cover everything from gangs and extremists to people who have been sucked into any form of organized criminality. And then we're going to look at predatory criminals. All right. So because I think it's important that this is taken note. Now, hang on a second, I'm just getting through all these. My internet's a little bit slow, everybody. Just bear with me. Bear with me. Here we go. Right. So this is from the 6th of March, 2025. Asylum seeker R's 15-year-old girl in town centre after spotting her alone, court hears. That is a child. Okay. And there's a reason why I'm not putting this up on the screen, because there's a lot of words here. I will, however, let you know who we're talking about if there's a picture of him. Of course, there's not. Okay. So an Afghan asylum seeker R a schoolgirl after spotting her alone in a town centre, a court heard. Sadiq Nizad approached the girl in Falkirk, Stirling, and asked for her number and whether or not she had a boyfriend, the High Court in Edinburgh heard. So this is my town. Nizad, 29, made inappropriate remarks towards the 15-year-old and led her to the rear of a pub where he attacked and R-ed her. Nizad denied R-ing the girl, but was yesterday found guilty by majority verdict of a jury following a trial. The court heard that he expects to be deported from the UK at the end of his prison sentence, imprisoned for assault and R of the victim on October 16th, 2023. The girl was walking alone in the town's high street, collecting her prescription when she was approached by Nizad. She told the jurors, "This person I have genuinely never seen before." The girl said it appeared that the English was not his first language, and she found it quite difficult to understand him at times. She said, "It's quite hard at times to decipher what he was trying to say to me." She said that during the assault on her, she froze. Hang on a second, I missed a bit. Trying to say to me. She said that during the assault on her, she froze. During the assault on her, she froze and was quite shocked. She said, "I knew I needed to get help as soon as possible. I didn't really have anything in me just to push him off. If he were to look, he would see that I was very unhappy and scared. The woman was walking towards her car and came across a teenage girl after she was subjected to the attack. She said, as I crossed the road, that's when I saw the girl and the man coming out of the lane, and the girl came straight over to me. She was in a daze. She looked stunned. I knew something had gone wrong. She came to me for comfort, and she said she kept telling the guy I was only 15. The girl's father told the court that he received a phone call from his daughter who told him that she'd been attacked, and when he saw her, and when he saw her, she was terrified. He said, I've never seen her in that state before. Sentence was deferred on Nick Zad by Judge Morris, KC, in the preparation of a background report on him, and is remanded in custody was continued. He was placed on the S offenders register. Is that it? Is that okay? Well, that's Edinburgh. All right, that's Edinburgh. And again, I want to reiterate, I know a lot of people in the UK, right? Lots of different backgrounds, lots of different religions, lots of different colors, if you will. And all of them have been here because their families have moved here or they've moved here. We're a very multicultural country. It's awesome, right? It's awesome. This isn't a culture or a religion or a color thing. It's an administrative thing. Okay. It's as basic as a VIP list for a nightclub. It's that simple. It's that simple, just to be clear. It's very much is your name on the list yet? No. Back of the line. Or how about this? How about this? See if we lived in a fantasy world where the UK was like smashing everything, education, police, healthcare, like everything, all the public, like every single road was perfectly tarmac, no potholes, nothing. And there was this huge excess surplus of money and everyone's taken care of. And we were like, right, sweet. Let's like fix the world now, right? Okay, let me put it another way. Let's say you and your gran, right, open me and my gran's coffee shop, right? Okay. At what point do you expand the business? Is it when it's on its arse and making nothing, or at the peak when it's super successful? Because I'm just saying, the numbers don't really add up here. Just from a simple business plan. Unless there's some major ulterior motive going on here that we're perhaps not so privy to, shall we say. But let's continue. When is this from? 7th of March, 2025. Failed asylum seeker who was not deported despite repeated crimes against women is jailed after R-ing a SEX worker. All right. There we go. Lovely photo of the gentleman for you all. Okay. A failed asylum seeker who remained at large in Britain despite repeated crimes against women and first offending 17 years ago has been jailed after R-ing a lady of the evening and admitting having evil sex with her. Iranian national Shaila Styli Mahmoudi, 42, struck in the early hours of the morning of the 21st in 2023, August 21st, 2023. His victim, who he picked up at Liverpool, thought he was taking her on to an apartment, but instead he led her to a derelict car park in the city centre. After knocking her to the ground, ripping off her leggings, he R-ed her. The woman managed to flee with nothing on from the waist down, and despite pursuing her, she was able to ring the police from a phone box. Now Mahmoudi has been jailed for 7.5 years, with a judge branding him a dangerous offender, and is finally set for deportation on completion of his sentence. Liverpool Crown Court heard he had previous convictions dating back to 2008, when he was convicted of disorderly behavior involving exposing himself to 3 women in a park. In 2019 and 2021, he was twice sentenced for harassing women, while in April 2024, Mohammed, his name's not Mohammed though. Well, yeah, they've got his name wrong down here. Mahmoudi was convicted of assault causing actual body harm after punching a man in the street when he was walking alone with a woman. Robert Jones, prosecuting, told Liverpool Crown Court that Mahmoudi, who lived in asylum seekers' housing in Edge Hill, Liverpool, initially denied the latest attack, but Mr. Wynne Jones added that when told of DNA evidence linking him to the crime, he accepted having what he called evil sex with her. Judge Murray jailed him for 7.5 years with an extended 4-year license after ruling that he is a dangerous offender. He said that Mahmoudi, who has not expressed any remorse, had lured the vulnerable victim by showing her cash. He pointed out that his previous convictions involving exposing himself to 3 women and harassments were worrying and showed a pattern of offending against women. Judge Murray ordered Mahmoudi to sign the SEX offenders register for life and imposed a 15-year restraining order. Defense barrister Peter Killen said that the defendant had been living in a chaotic lifestyle at the time of the attack for nearly 19 months. If he is not deported back to Iran after his release, he will live with his brother in Liverpool. So, if there was a vetting process, right? First say, oh, I don't know, your granny and yours cafe, right? Somebody applies for a job, right? You're going to sort of look into them, see what their history is, check their Facebook, and repeated monsters. I mean, we're not looking for any, right? I mean, I don't mean this in the worst way, right? But I imagine that a large portion of people who are using the asylum seeking label ain't in that category. Now, I make a joke, about social media and people posting on it. But I've just look at it. This is 8th of March, 2025. Ask yourself, are these the young gentlemen we would like coming into our country, right? So, security threat. H fanatic films himself arriving in Britain on small boat after T-word thug posted pics of assault pew-pews.
Toast is the POS.
I just literally jumped out of my goddamn skin. All right, well, we're not going to watch that video. That's too high risk. But freaking give me a heart attack. Right, so fanatical H supporter from Gaza has been filmed himself arriving in Britain on a cross-channel migrant boat, triggering a major security scare. Palestinian influencer Abu Wadi is seen on his TikTok feed flicking a V for victory sign as he sits in front of a boat packed with migrants in orange life jackets. Like, I'm not being funny, right? Okay. Okay. Do you know how stupid, right, the people in charge of the anti-terror group is in the UK? If we've got guys, right, posting on their TikToks where they are and where they're going, and they're still at large, right? How does any of this make? Does any of this make sense? How have we now got extremists flexing on their way? Like, I don't get it. I don't get how. Of course, it's a fake governing body. Can you guys like and share? I would really, I'd really appreciate it. If you could help me out here, that would be great. Now, like, this is. I mean, none of this looks good. I just want to point out, like, this guy here. Right? I'm sure he's a nice guy. Look at these little children. These guys haven't done anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this guy here. Maybe he's a nice guy. But when you have this very cleverly orchestrated loading of boats with just enough women and children so that when you unload the boat, you've got that presence there. Because, I mean, that's what you would do, right? You know, it's the same if you're selling fruit. You put the ones that people are going to have the most positive engagement with at the front, right? So if we've got one individual who's on a level of what's the right word here? A level of susness about them. What's going to happen when you have a situation where you have a bunch of normal people in another country, right? And then someone comes along and radicalizes them altogether, okay? And then a bunch of people move one country to another country. Do you not think that we're going to head towards a situation where there isn't enough room already? The situation and this, you know what, these poor individuals who are here out of desperation, no ulterior motives other than no other option. Is those are the people I feel sorry for. You know, but here's the thing. None of what I'm thinking applies to dangerous, violent, and predatory criminals. Like, if you've had like a bunch of parking tickets, right? Who cares, right? Like, who cares? Okay, like if one time you stole like a lipstick or like a I don't know, a lighter when you were like 17 and you're like in your 40s now, who cares? Do you know what I mean? But if you've like had 7 or 8 charges in the last 5 years, all directed towards, I don't know, women or children or in one specific madness of criminality, why, right? Is it that they're all just piling in here? I mean, it's not just here, don't get me wrong. But I very much believe that Scotland and those who call themselves its citizens and can hold up their passport, okay? Like, they all come first. You know? They all come first. And we looked at a case from this year in my city. Okay. We're going to continue reading this article here. Okay. 1 second. Okay, Jewish community leaders in the UK reacted with horror yesterday amid fears Wadi's arrival could herald a flood of dangerous supporters of the bloodthirsty terror group. It's almost like this whole just letting these boats pull up willy-nilly is a bad idea. It's almost like, right, somebody's seen a Netflix series and thought, hey, you know, it doesn't look that hard to just get on a boat and head over there. You know, that's not that covert of a skill to adapt. Wadi has posted violent imagery of himself toting pew-pews, hurling slingshots, and flexing his muscles in front of burning debris in the besieged Hamas stronghold. The firebrand, whose real name is Mossad Al-Quas, aged in his 20s, has 170,000 TikTok followers. He also has a YouTube channel followed by 189,000 subscribers, which collects money via PayPal. Palestinian Wadi social media feeds also shows him at a rally declaring he is a member of a violent Hamas violent tire burning unit. He rails against Jews in the post, adding that his loftiest aspiration is to die for the sake of Allah. Right? The UK-based campaign against anti-Semitism learned of Wadi's arrival under UK Coast Guard escort on the south coast of England on Friday. The group said it had carried out exacting computer body mapping checks comparing images of the boat's arrival plus the video of images of Wadi's phone. What? It's not, I mean, I'm not being funny. Oh yeah, I'm sure it was a long day. CAA officials said that they had also taken legal action on their CAA officials said that they'd also taken legal advice on their findings and issued an urgent appeal to the Home Office to take action yesterday. Wadi's post on his arrival shows that he's packed a dinghy being escorted by US shores by British Border Force patrol boat. So, are all of these boats getting patrols? Or just specific ones? Was that TikTok post a message back saying, hey, they came through and they're escorting us? Because you gotta wonder how many of these boats are getting ferried in, getting escorts, getting the welcome wagon. And it's a scary concept because when we talk about an imported culture shift and you've got thousands and thousands of people who are getting a 1 or 2 day transitional training on do's and don'ts of British culture, and we're seeing people being scared, you know, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for, you know, what's in their head or what they've heard. But it's a scary concept to think that individuals who are in support of groups who carry out devastating acts, right? It's scary to think how many of them don't post their activities, don't update their social medias, and are sitting and waiting. It's a scary concept. It really is. Now, there was coverage of something else that's going on around Britain on another YouTube channel. I believe it was DJ Media or something like this. It's the guy, one of the guys that walks around with his chest cam on and his drone and sticks his nose in to find out what's going on in certain places. And he covered a hotel where in that area, parents were complaining about groups of asylum seekers huddled together outside schools, or they were in vans outside schools looking at the kids. And it was almost like when he was down there filming it, the locals didn't want to interact with him. They didn't want to talk about it. And it was quite a scary concept of a population in denial or too scared to speak out against a very different culture to what they're used to, both physically, both verbally, spiritually, dietarily. I mean, there's a lot that you can kind of split the hairs of when it comes to different, extremely different cultures meeting and trying to merge. Merge in a forced way, if that makes sense. Merged in a forced way. Because again, you've got hundreds and hundreds of hotels in small English towns all around the UK. British towns, I should have said. And it's scary to think where this is all going to head, because Tony Smith, small boat figure. Also, this is 3rd of March, 2025. Small boat figures are shocking, but why are we allowing people in on visas for them to arrive, then claim asylum? Hundreds of migrants are in unsanitary camps without running water in and around the French port of Calais, waiting to get over here. That's, do you know, that's a scary thought as well. Like, to think what the queuing system's like. But I tell you what, I think drastic measures need to happen. Okay. And I mean, Trump got it half right. We need real extreme measures. And it should be based off of the effect that it's having on those who are here and are part of a country, regardless of how long they've been here, what their heritage is, whatever. If you go through the right process and you are here, nice one, welcome. But it's scary to think that some of the people who've moved here have, years ago or recently, but they've came through the proper channels. They've been trying to escape horrible things. And now they must feel things have changed. It's just sad. And I just want to go through this because just like the small boats crossing the English Channel, the shocking immigration figures keep coming and coming. The latest Home Office statistic revealed that on Sunday, more asylum seekers reached British shores in tiny sea vessels. More asylum seekers reached the British shores in tiny sea vessels than any time so far this year. So this is just escalating. There were 592 migrants in 11 of these perilous inflatables. It is no surprise then that Stefan Pinto, the mayor of Ambletuis, just south of Calais, has called on Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer to come and look at our beaches. Hundreds of migrants are using unsanitary camps without running water in and around the French port, waiting to get over here. Why? Like, I don't understand what is going on the Calais beaches has got anything to do with us. Like, that sounds like an EU thing to me, if I'm being honest. It sounds like an EU thing. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like to me. Oh man, let's just read this. Then we'll get on. Then we'll get on to the next part. Okay. 100 get over here. In 2025, so far, 2,717 asylum seekers have made the journey across the English Channel, which is far higher than the 2,225 that made the trip by this time last year. It is only to get worse, and in this good weather. But even more worrying is that the data released this week, which revealed 108,000 people claimed asylum in the UK in 2024. The figure has almost doubled since 2021 and beats the previous record of 103,000 set in 2002. Remember, these figures relate solely to asylum seekers and not to refugees who come under safe and legal routes, amounting to another 79,000 people. Do you know how many people that is? That is wads. That's wads of people. How did so many people get here? Well, only 37,000 of the 108,000 asylum seeker applicants were smuggled on small boats. Indeed, 44,000 came from all irregular arrivals, which included lorry drops, inadequately duplicated air arrivals, and in the forms of control evasion. Moment migrant tent city is removed after months of chaos on busy street. I swear to God, don't come on loud.
Manchester City Council evicted dozens of people from an encampment
Why
outside the town hall.
The world you know is gone.
February 26th.
Excuse me, everyone. This website is having a freaking moment to itself. Jesus. Wow, honestly, websites, man.
Manchester City Council evicted dozens of people from an encampment outside the town hall on Wednesday morning, February 26th. At around 6:45 a.m, council operatives moved to evict those living in what's known as the Red Tent Camp. The camp sits on St. Peter's Square in the city centre. The eviction came after
Like, I'm not being funny, mate, right? But how would you adapt to that? Imagine you wake up and a couple of tents appear somewhere, right? And maybe it's part of your city you don't usually go to. And then 6 months later, you're in the same part of your city, and it's now known as the Red Camp. And there's tents everywhere. And all of these people have snuck in, registered, literally registered as asylum seekers. And this is the solution, right? Is this the solution? Because this is mad. This is mad. This is madness.
Manchester Council was granted a possession order earlier this month. People were handed plastic bags for their...
So the council needed to wait until it was granted an order in order to deal with the individuals who are here seeking asylum. And our country has, I mean, God, could you imagine if you and your wife or you and your husband or partner, whatever, turned up to a restaurant, you've been looking forward to it all week, and they like quadruple, like tenfold overbooked the restaurant, you'd be raging. And that's a meal. That's just a meal. You know? Is it not better to be honest with people and be like, look, by the way, I know you're wanting asylum in that, but see the UK, we're broken right now. And the really sad thing is you know there's genuine people fleeing. And I've got to be honest, even if you're a genuine person who's fleeing, but you also are a predatory R-worder from, you know, wherever it is you're fleeing. I don't really care about your want for asylum. Like, literally suck your mum. You know, that goes for anyone who wants to come here and cause harm. Do horrible acts. You know? You're always going to get some scallywags. Some scallywags, all right? You know? I'm not talking about like, oh, you know, you've done some petty crime, you know, and you've turned your life around. Great. Please fill in the paperwork. I don't understand why this is so hard. So wait. So we've got all these people in Cali, right? Let's just try and fix the world here, right? We've got all these people in Cali who've fled something and have got to Cali because it's the closest point to the UK, right? Or it's the closest point to get off of wherever they are. Why are we facilitating this? Why are we facilitating this? Why are these individuals not stopped at whatever the frickin' border is at France? Yep, Ashley, 100%, 100%. There's actually a gentleman who I was reading about earlier who had convictions in Italy and then went through France to end up here and then committed more crimes and was jailed. So if France is allowing extremists and potentially violent individuals, criminals, predators, organized crime groups, smugglers to operate, if this was like pew pews or boom booms or white or H or anything else, like the government would be, I guess, yeah, plotter 100%, 100%. You know, because you know, as soon as the ones who've done 19 crimes and eventually get done for the 20th, you know, there's going to be legislation in the years to come that allows them sanctity. I just don't get how what's happening, right? Like, so we've got a percentage of people who are criminals, organized crime people, bad people, just the bad people, right? Who end up in France. France goes, nah, mate, you can't stay here. Sorry, pal. And then they go, okay, can we go to the Mad Beach camp and wait for one of the sea taxis to take us over to Britain? Yeah. Why? Why is that allowed? Why is that allowed? Because could I not view that as a tactical move by the French as some weird way of weaponizing humans because we left the EU? Why are the French getting away with this? Like, maybe I'm dumb, right? Maybe I'm just dumb, right? Maybe I'm just dumb, but this is a France issue that needs dealt with. It's definitely tactical. I agree, but it's not because of the EU. Well, I'm just saying you could frame it that way if that makes sense. But it's just a bit mad because again, right? Again. I just don't understand why it's being allowed to be done in a way that's so detrimental to the country that they're coming into, the people that are coming in. And do you want to know what's real scary, ladies and gentlemen? Right? Talk about conspiracies. Flawed decision saw 262 child asylum seekers wrongly. A flawed decision saw 262 child asylum seekers wrongly classed as adults. Definitely nothing suspicious with that, right? You know what I'm saying? You know, definitely nothing suspicious about a bunch of kids being labeled as a bunch of adults, right? More than 260 children asylum seekers were wrongly put in an adult accommodation or detention in the first half of last year in coalition of charities. A coalition of charities has said. The Refugee and Migrant Children's Consortium said such a flawed decision making, flawed decision making has led children to being put at risk. Currently, if someone claims to be a child but has no any documents, immigration officers have to make an initial age decision on whether the person should be treated as a child or an adult, like a bus driver. Do you know what I'm saying? So the person can only be treated as an adult if two Home Office staff assess that their physical appearance and demeanor very strongly suggest that they are significantly over 18. Jesus. A group of more than 100 charities called for an age determination by the Home Office to be limited and for people insisting they are children to be treated as adults only in exceptional cases, e.g. evidence they are in their late 20s. Oh my God. I need to read it on this screen. The children, the said children fleeing war, persecution, and human rights abuse will often not have appropriate accommodation documentation, which makes sense. If there is reasonable doubt about someone's claim to be a child, the National Age Assessment Board, or NAB, the National Age Assessment Board, a Home Office body made up of mainly social workers, can carry out age assessments. Why does that sound so weird? If there's reasonable doubt of someone's claim to be a child, NAB, a Home Office body made up mainly of but the coalition said the board is hugely expensive, costing 1.7 million a year, and called for it to be scrapped with a focus instead on a countrywide training and support local authority work. That is weird. That is weird. The charity report said that between January and June 2024, 63 local authorities in England and Scotland received 603 referrals of young people wrongly placed in adult accommodation or detention after flawed Home Office age assessments. Wow, and they got it wrong, man. I wonder, of these, 493 cases resulted in age being determined, of which more than 53 were found to be children. The report stated that at least 262 children were misclassified as adults in just 6 months. Wow. It's like 1 and a bit kids a day wrongly classed, exposing them to safeguarding risks and even criminal charges in some cases. Wow. The coalition said the true figures is likely to be significantly higher because not all our local authorities responded to the request for data, and not our children are being referred to child services. For 18 months from January 2002 and 2023, there were more than 1,300 children wrongly assessed to be adults by the Home Office and sent to adult accommodation detention. Okay, so we're kind of screwing this up. Okay, so just from a we're doing a terrible job point of view, this has all got to stop. But how do we approach this? Okay, so I want you to give me a number between 1 and 5, right? Number 1 being you are okay with all of this, okay? And you think that this should stay the same. 5 being, literally having the army out at sea sinking these boats, okay? Where do you guys sit on the scale of 1 to 5 of how this should be dealt with, right? Because honestly, I just feel there is this There needs to be a lockdown on this. You know, but the problem is you can't just pop these little bolts. We can't. But surely, right? This directly falls under some sort of government funding for anti-terror or whatever the British version of Homeland Security is, surely. You know, and making them turn around and head back the way they came, that has to be the only option. You know, very much you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here mindset. Well, then here's the thing, Julie, right? Do you not feel like all of that has been put in place to be taken away, and for the absolute devastation and the outpour of homelessness, unemployment would be absolutely devastating? Do you not feel like there's this weird... I feel like, do you know, Julie, I feel like this is the calm. I feel like this is the calm before the storm. And I feel like in years to come, we're going to be seeing the discussion of how if we just look at this image, right? Let's just pretend this is a little kid. One of these little kids that comes over here like age 5, 6 years old, remembers everything, gets asylum, you know, lives his life here, gets brought up here. Those are like, is it really stupid? Like, am I being dumb here? Or if we're going to try and figure something out, right? Surely it has to be the most vulnerable people that need taken care of, you know? And that would be women and children, right? I know that sounds weird, but I feel like mothers and their children, to me, seem like less of a scary option, if that makes sense. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's not dangerous women. I'm not saying that there's not dangerous women or radicalized women in the slightest. You know, but then it's our problem. That one demographic. Well, everyone's getting support when they come over here right now. They're getting, like you say, they're getting phones, they're getting accommodation, everything's happening. But should we not be trying to, if we're going to actually try and do some help, I feel like it should be for the most vulnerable. Correct. Yes, that's exactly it, Chris. 100%. Population displacement. Now, ain't that a terrifying concept, right? Now, we're going to watch a little video here from GB News, which is all about a village with a population of 700. 700 is getting 800 asylum seekers. Now, I'm not saying anything, right? But you know when, like, you want to test something before you, like, you know when you dip your toe in the bath right? Just to make sure you're not about to have a Bernie time, okay? I feel like that's what this is. I feel like it's okay. Well, if we've got a population of 700 and then we put a ratio of like 1.01 to 1, what happens? And then what happens when it's 10,000 or 20,000? So we're just going to watch a segment from this because I think it's interesting and a bit scary.
Thursday, a tiny picturesque village of just 700 people in Essex could be outnumbered by illegal migrants. This is what happened in 2023 when the people of Wethersfield, near Braintree in Essex, were first told by the Home Office that their former RAF base would house small boat arrivals.
Wrong place. Asylum seekers deserve better. Wrong plan.
I mean, that is a really, it's a really democratic way of putting it, you know? But this, I mean, a disused airfield. What a way of building an animosity between those who are coming here and where they're being put.
Wrong place. Asylum seekers deserve better.
All right, well, not very happy, but the migrants were bussed there anyway, 50 of them to begin with. But 2 years later, and the Home Office will, next week, on Thursday, decide whether to allow up to 800 asylum seekers to stay in Wethersfield, totally eclipsing the village's tiny population of, remember, just 700. So what's the problem, you may ask? Well, first of all, let me remind you of what the Home Office said about the asylum seekers when they first arrived in 2023.
But also to engage with the community as well and learn how to be a good citizen. Everybody who arrives here goes through an orientation process to understand what acceptable behaviour is. We know that they've been through quite a lengthy journey and they're in a new environment, and it's important they understand how to fit in and be part of the community and minimise any impact.
So how have they been fitting in? Have they been good citizens? The Daily Express reported this week how one asylum seeker broke free from a medical professional looking after him and attacked his elderly father's moving car while one of his daughters was inside. Another neighbour said there were a lot of fights. We hear ambulances and police cars going there quite a lot. Now, locals also said groups of up to 20 migrants regularly roam the private country roads around Wethersfield, as seen from the CCTV of one house here. You can see the group walking up the lane, leaving many people, including women, afraid to leave their homes. There were also reports of migrants defecating in the streets and fields, which, to be honest, quite frankly, I found shocking and didn't actually believe, first of all. So I went down to Wethersfield myself to find out what was going on. So what have you seen?
All right, it gets a bit, they're not lying. The guy goes down, he investigates it. But here's an interesting one here.
Oh, dearie.
Basically, guy tried to break into a house.
Oh, dearie me. So while the local residents feel unsafe, let down and ignored, I went down to the base itself and found two women in a van dishing out what I later understood to be clothes and hats to the migrants.
Hi,
How's it going? Ben from GB News, how are you? Are you serving?
So we've got, British charities who are, I imagine, trying to do their best. But anytime you see these news reporters trying to interact with certain groups or these certain charity groups, everything sort of gets shut down, and it's very like, it's real sus how a lot of this is being conducted. And I'm really at a point with this where if we're going to start seeing the overpopulation of towns, if we're going to start seeing this huge, what is the word I'm looking for? Industrial smuggling of people, the mislabeling of children, where's it all heading? Because hundreds of thousands of people, a country that's on its back, the difference in cultures and this modern want to fit everybody in and expect everyone to just sort of blend. These are things that, when they're not forced, these things are great. But when the only people that seem, I mean, if we're talking about 100,000 individuals who've been brought over on these little inflatable crafts at $5,000 or $6,000 a head, like who are these millionaire smugglers now? Because someone is getting very rich off this. Very rich. You know? Because I'm not being funny, right? A better idea, right, is if it's 5,000 or 6,000 for a seat on one of these dinghies, take all the people with the cash, the actual cash, get the French to ship them over, right? Get them a first, get the deposit down on a house, get them a little start, I'm down with that. You know what I'm saying? Let's take the Australian approach to if you want to come to our country. You ever seen what you need the list of stuff you need if you want to emigrate to Australia from the UK? They're like, okay, so do you own a property here? When you retire, have you got enough savings? Because we basically don't want to, you can use the health service and that, but we basically don't want to have to contribute to you being here. All right. Which is great. It's a big long list of stuff that you need to make sure you can sustain yourself. But man, there are some people taking hard stances against this. And Poland ain't messing around. Okay? They ain't messing around. And we're going to watch this little video because I think it's testament to a mindset people don't like to talk about.
Michał Bura of the Polish border guard keeps watch on the frontier with Belarus.
A few years ago, this paved road led straight into Belarus.
Now it's closed. As an external border of the EU, it has to be secured against illegal immigration, among other things. Bura and his fellow border guards patrol for migrants waiting for their chance to enter the EU via the forest on the Belarusian side.
Seen anyone suspicious?
No, it's quiet, only locals.
Good, let's hope it stays that way.
The Polish government describes illegal migration as hybrid warfare. It has accused Belarus and Russia of deliberately funneling migrants from Asia and Africa to the Polish border as a way of pressuring the West. Nearly all of them have Russian visas. A new migration route has taken shape here. Poland's previous government, headed by the Law and Justice Party, installed a barrier along some 180 kilometers of the border. Even so, the Polish border guard has recorded over 20,000 attempted illegal crossings so far this year, many more than the year before.
Since April, the number of attempts has risen to several hundred per day, and the attempts have become increasingly aggressive. Our officers and soldiers have been injured. Our vehicles and equipment have been damaged, and ultimately a tragedy occurred. One of our own was killed.
Border guards are increasingly being attacked through the barrier. In early June, a Polish soldier died of stab wounds inflicted by a makeshift spear. The Polish government under Donald Tusk announced it would reactivate a buffer zone, up to 2 kilometers wide in some areas along the border. Nobody can enter without permission.
One guy, okay, who was part of his job, right, was keeping that border safe. One guy got injured. One Polish guy gets injured, okay, and a 2-kilometer buffer zone is put in place. We're an island, right? We're an island. Like, surely satellites and that, right? We should all be in our own little bit of the coast, right? We need to be in charge of this because that's how seriously they took it. One guy. Look at all the reports that we've just looked at today. The women, the children.
These are not refugees. Fewer and fewer of them are families in need of assistance. In 80% of cases, we are dealing with organized groups of young men aged 18 to 30 who are very violent.
That sounds awfully familiar. Poland. It's interesting hearing you say all of that because our Prime Minister...
Neither a stricter border policy nor a new government has really changed the situation. If anything, it's only gotten worse, says Alexandra Kryshanovska. She's part of an aid organisation tasked with finding migrants deep in the forest along the Belarusian frontier, before vigilante groups or the border guard get to them.
The people we encounter tell us they've been subjected to even worse, even more cruel and ruthless violence, not just on the Belarusian side, but on the Polish side too. They tell us they were beaten, kicked, thrown to the ground, and handcuffed.
Kryshanovska shows us...
I mean, that is awful to think that there are people terrified in a forest somewhere with no hope.
Videos of refugees she and other volunteers regularly encounter here in the forest. Some are starving or injured. The volunteers take...
See, this is the French Calais port equivalent of Poland. Okay? This is the beaches in Calais, except it's the forest in Poland.
...care of them and advise them to apply for asylum in Poland. If they don't, they can legally be sent back to Belarus. But not all refugees are given the chance to apply.
Many of the people in the forest who say they intend to apply for protection and also say it to the border guard officers in our presence end up contacting us a few days later from Belarus. They say they were forced to sign a document which they did not understand but stated that they would not seek protection in Poland.
Many of these are allegedly illegal pushbacks. The border guard denies involvement. Videos circulating online allegedly show Polish border guards carrying seemingly unconscious people through a small gate in the barrier to the Belarusian side. There's been hardly any official response.
So the Prime Minister of Poland recently made a statement where basically he said if you come to his borders and you don't have the right paperwork, you will just get pew-pewed. Okay? Then he goes walking around Poland, and it's interesting how different a country who locks down its borders and who puts its people first actively encourages tourism and immigration to its country the right way. It's real creepy at this point. Like, it's real creepy. Because again, I don't understand why Christie. Okay, so I think what you're saying is what I was saying that the Polish Prime Minister had said was taking it a bit far. So, is it? Saying it out loud doesn't sound nice. Agreeing with it doesn't sound nice. Okay. But then where do you draw the limit on the safety of your citizens? Does that make sense? Because it's one of those horrible questions of debate, right? Because there shouldn't be a limit of what you would do to protect your people. Does that make sense? And we're not talking about turning people away. We're talking about people going through a system. Might be a terrible system, might be a flawed system, but there is a system. And when you've got women, children, families of a nation, isn't it the duty of those in charge of those nations to put them first and protect them? And that's why we have these systems. And it sounds so easy when you're just a guy on the internet talking. It's an absolute nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. But it's scary to see how much of this now is being ignored when it comes to these cultural differences involving children, involving women. And the more and more we see segregation, where we have these people forced into hotels, and the stigma that is surrounding criminality and those who lurk within these hotels, that stigma falling onto those who may not apply to, is the wrong way of doing all of this. All of it. And again, I don't understand. I really don't understand how duty of care to those who you represent doesn't come first. Nah, Ashley, it's not even that. It's, see, here's the thing, Ashley, right? So, yes, let them into the community if there was half a dozen, right? Like if you had 3 or 4 families that were coming into your entire town or village, and you all were like, oh, they've been through so much, and you know, brilliant, right? I'm sure everybody would be like, yeah, okay, actually 4 families, yeah, okay, sweet. I think we could get really, that's great. But when it's like entire buildings, Ashley, like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I know you weren't actually saying that, and I know you weren't thinking that's what I actually meant, but it works on a tiny scale. It really does. And you know what? It's very British. It's very much like, don't take the pee. And as long as no one takes the pee, then we're quite an empathetic and embracing nation, the majority of us. But I don't think it would matter what it is. If it was getting shoved down your throat, it's going to cause problems. And the true agenda of all of this will be revealed at some point. And it's scary to think if something's not done, what this could mean. And it's weird. This is going to sound really crazy, right? I'm in Edinburgh, okay? I'm in Scotland. Other than like the Chinese supermarkets, the Polish delis, and the little like Jamaican and African stores, a lot of like specialist ladies' hair shenanigans going on, right? These are like little independent businesses all around my city, right? And they're great. They're little, like, people have come here, right? And they've set up a business to supply food and delicacies to other people from their country who've also came here. It's brilliant, right? And I mean, I love it. I mean, I love it. I love these places. Oh, and I mean, I'm saying that. Italians as well, man. Little Italian bakery in Leith, right? They're one of the only places that does proper cannolis, like actual proper cannolis. These are all like amazing, you know. When I went down to England, I went down to Manchester, right? I went down to Manchester, and I'm standing in England, in Manchester, and both sides of a street that was maybe 2/3 of a mile long, just both sides of a street, not a single word of English in any of the shop windows, signs, nothing. Completely different language. And I'm like, whoa. I'd never seen anything like it. It was crazy, right? It was crazy. Because obviously, if an area is 90% not from England, you know, it would make sense that that's how the area would be. But I'd never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. You know? And again, it was just a culture thing for me, and I only went to England. I can try, Jane, yeah. I can try. But again, just crazy. I've got a couple of Julia shows planned for this week with FIA updates and some more bits and bobs that have hit my emails. I'm going to do a Diddy show. There's a YouTuber that just got into Diddy's mansion. Mental. Like, the things that people do for content is wild. And yeah, so yeah, you're gonna have to rewind, Joe. So again, for me, I just don't understand how everyone in England, everyone in Scotland, who's part of this country, no matter where they were born or where they started, but those who, whether their families have been here for generations or they're the first generation, whatever, you know, think of all of the time and effort and everything that they went through. And that was just to go the legal route. It's kind of wild to think where all this could be heading. And the augmentation of opinion and culture, right? Hey, don't worry about it. Okay, we'll all just get along. Don't worry. Don't worry about the criminal records. Don't worry about the culture dynamics. Don't worry about what their God says about our God or your God says about their God. Everything will just be fine. But if you question it, you're the one who's the problem, right? Because so many people are blinded for whatever reason to not see the bigger picture. Or for some reason see our children, our families, our heritage, our faith, our lifestyles as a secondary thing. Because I tell you right now, if I was to go on holiday to Dubai and not respect the culture over there, there's some heavy jail sentences that can be handed out. So why is it not the same for UK culture? Why is it always got to be forfeited? Why can't there be this beautiful, respectful balance of culture and lifestyle? Like, I don't get it. Oh, J-Woo. I have got something planned for all you Meghan Markle, Ron, chop busting fans. I'm telling you now. I'm just waiting to get. I've got to render out and upload the test sample today to see if it gets claimed, and then I'll know which way I'll be able to film this. Ron's eyes are dry, real dry. Ron, we are all questioning it right now. It's the media scaring people into thinking no one is and no one can. Right? Make sure you don't tweet about it. You know what I'm saying? Because, man, we have got, what, over 2,000 people in jail for social media posts. But yet you've got criminals down south who R-worded an individual and they got an ankle tag and no jail. Yeah. So we're sending out cultural missed signals here when things are happening, but then the punishments ain't fitting the crime, if that makes sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, it really, really doesn't. Well, look, we're going to start winding down. Going to probably put up a headline show for about 5 o'clock. I want to do a little half-hour live stream on some other headlines. I'll get that up as soon as I finish this. There's some other stuff I want to talk about today. But look, if you guys could please like and share, if you can please push this. Ow, whacked my finger. If you can help me push this out, and I will see you all in about an hour for our next show, just going through some headlines and looking at some other bits and bobs. But be very, very aware, okay, that this is an orchestrated, hidden agenda. And it's scary to think what's going to happen when it all collapses. All right. Thanks all for being here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, and I'll see you in the next one in about an hour's time. Take it easy. Peace.